Marcus Thompson stood at the kitchen window of his small house in Virginia Beach, watching his 8-year-old daughter Emma play in the backyard. Her blonde pigtails bounced as she chased butterflies around the garden, her laughter filling the quiet afternoon air. This was his world now, peaceful, simple, and everything he had fought to protect during his 12 years as a Navy SEAL. The phone rang, breaking his thoughts. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, his ex-wife calling from California where she lived with her wealthy new husband, Richard Blackwood. Marcus hesitated before answering. These calls usually meant trouble. "Marcus, we need to talk," Sarah's voice was sharp, businesslike. No greeting, no asking about Emma. "What about?" Marcus kept his tone calm, years of military training helping him control his emotions. "Richard and I are moving to London. He got a promotion, and we're leaving next month. Emma needs to come with us." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He gripped the phone tighter, watching Emma through the window as she picked dandelions. "That wasn't our agreement, Sarah. The custody papers clearly state Emma lives with me during the school year." "Things change, Marcus. Richard can provide Emma with opportunities you never could. Private schools, travel, a better life. You're just a security guard now." The insult stung, but Marcus had heard worse. After leaving the SEALs due to a leg injury, he had taken a job at a local maritime security company. It paid the bills and let him be home for Emma every day. "Emma is happy here. This is her home." "Don't be selfish," Sarah snapped. "I'm her mother, and I know what's best for her. Richard has already enrolled her in an exclusive boarding school in Switzerland. She'll get the finest education money can buy." "You mean she'll be shipped off to strangers while you and Richard play house in London?" Marcus felt his anger rising but kept his voice steady for Emma's sake. "We'll discuss this in court if necessary. Richard has excellent lawyers." The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone, his mind racing. He had saved every penny to fight the previous custody battle 3 years ago when Sarah first tried to take Emma to California. Back then, the judge had ruled in his favor, recognizing that Emma needed stability and that Marcus was the primary caregiver. But Richard Blackwood had deep pockets and connections that reached far beyond California. Emma burst through the back door, holding a handful of wilted dandelions. "Daddy, look what I picked for you." Marcus knelt down to her level, accepting the flowers with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "They're beautiful, princess. Just like you. Can we make pancakes for dinner again? With the funny faces?" Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Of course we can." Marcus hugged her tight, breathing in the scent of sunshine and grass in her hair. He wouldn't let anyone take this away from them. That evening, after Emma had fallen asleep clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, Marcus sat at his laptop researching Richard Blackwood. What he found made his blood run cold. Blackwood wasn't just wealthy, he was connected to powerful people in politics and business. His law firm had a reputation for winning impossible cases through intimidation and unlimited resources. Marcus opened a folder on his desk containing all of Emma's drawings, report cards, and photos from the past 3 years. Every soccer game he had attended, every scraped knee he had bandaged, every bedtime story he had read, it was all documented here. Emma thrived under his care, but would that be enough against Blackwood's money and influence? He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, stopping at a familiar name, Jake Morrison, his old SEAL teammate who now worked as a private investigator in D.C. If anyone could help him dig up information on Blackwood, it was Jake. "Marcus, what's wrong?" Jake answered on the second ring, immediately sensing the urgency in his friend's voice. Marcus explained the situation while pacing his living room. Jake listened without interruption, a habit from their military days when lives depended on clear communication. "I'll start looking into Blackwood tomorrow," Jake said finally. "But, Marcus, you need to know, guys like him don't fight fair. If he wants Emma, he'll use every dirty trick in the book." "Let him try," Marcus replied, his voice carrying the steel that had made him one of the Navy's elite warriors. "He doesn't know who he's dealing with." After hanging up, Marcus checked on Emma one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and whispered, "Daddy's going to protect you, princess. No matter what it takes." The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Marcus was making Emma's breakfast when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, he saw a man in an expensive suit holding an official-looking envelope. "Marcus Thompson?" "You've been served," the man said, thrusting the papers at Marcus before hurrying back to his luxury car. Marcus opened the envelope with trembling hands. The legal documents were thick and intimidating, filled with complex language that essentially said Sarah and Richard were filing for emergency custody of Emma. They claimed Marcus was an unfit father due to his history of violence and unstable mental state following his military service. The lies burned like acid in his throat. They had twisted his honorable service into something sinister, painting him as a dangerous veteran who couldn't be trusted with a child. The hearing was scheduled for the following Friday, less than a week away. Emma appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school in her favorite purple dress. "Daddy, you look sad. Are you okay?" Marcus folded the papers quickly and forced a smile. "Just some grown-up stuff, princess. Nothing for you to worry about. Ready for school?" As they drove to Emma's elementary school, she chattered about her upcoming art project and how her friend Sophie was going to help her make a collage about families. Marcus listened with half his attention while his mind worked through the implications of the lawsuit. At the school drop-off, Emma's teacher Mrs. Patterson approached his car window. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had taught Emma since kindergarten. "Mr. Thompson, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right? Emma mentioned something yesterday about possibly moving far away." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What exactly did she say?" "She said her mommy called and told her about a big adventure to a castle school." Emma seemed confused and upset about leaving her friends. Mrs. Patterson's concerned expression deepened. "I just wanted you to know in case there was anything the school could do to help." "Thank you for telling me," Marcus managed to say. "I'll talk to Emma about it." As he drove to work, Marcus realized that Sarah had already started poisoning Emma's mind about the move, presenting it as an exciting adventure rather than what it really was, a kidnapping disguised as an opportunity. At his job, Marcus struggled to concentrate on the security briefings and patrol schedules. His supervisor, Tom Bradley, a former Marine who understood the bond between warriors, pulled him aside during lunch. "You look like hell, Thompson. What's eating at you?" Marcus explained the situation, and Tom's expression grew darker with each detail. "That's low, even for a divorce lawyer. Using your service record against you is despicable." "I need some time off next week for the hearing," Marcus said. "I know it's short notice." "Take whatever time you need," Tom clapped him on the shoulder. "And, Thompson? If you need character witnesses, half the guys here would testify for you. You're one of the best fathers I know." That afternoon, Jake called with preliminary information on Richard Blackwood. "This guy's dirty, Marcus. I found 3 different business deals where his partners ended up bankrupt while he walked away richer. He's also been linked to some shady political donations, but nothing that's stuck in court." "Anything I can use in the custody hearing?" "Not yet, but I'm just getting started. I've got a contact at the IRS who might be able to dig deeper into his finances. Give me a few more days." When Marcus picked up Emma from school, she was unusually quiet during the drive home. Finally, she spoke up from the back seat. "Daddy, do you not want me anymore?" Marcus nearly swerved the car in shock. He pulled over immediately and turned to face his daughter. "Emma, why would you ask that?" "Mommy said you might get tired of taking care of me and that Uncle Richard could give me a better home." Tears were forming in Emma's eyes. Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and reached back to hold Emma's hands. "Princess, listen to me very carefully. I will never, ever get tired of you. You are the most important thing in my whole world. Nobody loves you more than Daddy does. But Mommy said the castle school would be fun, and I could learn to speak different languages. Would you want to leave your friends?"
And Mrs. Patterson? And our house where we make pancakes?
Marcus kept his voice gentle despite the rage building inside him.
Emma shook her head vigorously. I want to stay with you, Daddy. I don't want to go to a castle school. That evening, Marcus tucked Emma into bed and sat with her until she fell asleep. Then, he made a decision that would change everything. He called Sarah's number, but Richard answered instead. Thompson, I was expecting your call. Richard's voice was smooth and condescending. Ready to be reasonable about this?
The only reasonable thing here is for you to drop this ridiculous lawsuit, Marcus replied calmly.
Richard chuckled. You have no idea who you're dealing with, do you? I have resources you can't even imagine. Judges who owe me favors, investigators who can dig up dirt on anyone, lawyers who specialize in destroying military veterans' credibility. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Emma deserves better than a broken-down soldier playing house.
Drop your opposition to the custody change, and I'll make sure you get generous visitation rights.
Fight me, and I'll make sure you never see her again.
Marcus felt the familiar calm that came over him before a dangerous mission.
Richard, let me share something with you.
I spent 12 years hunting down the most dangerous people on Earth. I've been shot at, blown up, and left for dead.
But I always completed my mission. Always. What's your point?
My point is that you just made the biggest mistake of your life.
You threatened my daughter. That makes you a target. Are you threatening me? Because I'm recording this call. I'm not threatening you, Richard. I'm making you a promise. You want a war? You'll get one.
But, when the smoke clears, Emma will still be sleeping safely in her own bed, and you'll understand why you should never have picked a fight with a Navy SEAL. Marcus hung up before Richard could respond. The battle lines were drawn, and he knew his enemies would strike first. But they had no idea what kind of man they were dealing with, or how far a father would go to protect his princess. 3 days before the custody hearing, Marcus woke to find 2 police cars parked outside his house. His blood ran cold as he watched through the bedroom window. Emma was still sleeping, but the presence of law enforcement at dawn never meant anything good.
The doorbell rang insistently.
Marcus quickly threw on clothes and opened the door to find Detective Williams, a man he vaguely recognized from the neighborhood watch meetings. Mr. Thompson, we need to talk, Detective Williams said, his expression serious.
We received a report that you threatened to kill Richard Blackwood.
Marcus felt the trap closing around him.
That's not true. I never threatened to kill anyone. We have a recording of your conversation with Mr. Blackwood 3 nights ago.
You mentioned hunting dangerous people and making him a target.
Detective Williams held up his phone. Care to explain?
He threatened to take my daughter away forever. I told him I wouldn't let that happen. That's not a death threat, it's a father protecting his child.
Mr. Blackwood seems to think otherwise.
He's filed for a restraining order, and, frankly, your military background makes this concerning. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes.
Daddy, why are there police cars outside? Just a misunderstanding, Princess. Go back to your room for a few minutes.
Detective Williams watched Emma disappear upstairs before continuing. Look, Thompson, I know you're a veteran, and I respect that. But threatening powerful people isn't smart, especially when you're fighting for custody.
I didn't threaten him.
I told him he picked the wrong fight. Same difference in court. Detective Williams handed Marcus a copy of the restraining order. You're to stay at least 500 yards away from Richard Blackwood at all times.
Violation means jail time.
After the police left, Marcus read through the restraining order with growing disbelief. Richard had painted him as an unstable veteran with violent tendencies, claiming to fear for his life.
The document would be presented to the judge at Friday's hearing as evidence of Marcus's unfitness as a father.
His phone buzzed with a text from Jake, emergency.
Meet me at the diner on Shore Drive. Come alone.
Marcus arranged for his neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, to watch Emma and drove to meet Jake. The diner was nearly empty at 10 in the morning, just a few truck drivers and early retirees drinking coffee. Jake was sitting in a corner booth, his face grim.
"We've got problems, Marcus. Big ones."
"Bigger than a restraining order?"
"Much bigger." Jake slid a manila folder across the table. "I dug into Blackwood's finances like you asked.
Found something interesting. He's been making payments to a private investigation firm called Titan Security." Marcus opened the folder to find photographs of himself and Emma taken without their knowledge.
Pictures of them at the grocery store, at Emma's school, even in their backyard. The dates went back 3 months.
"He's been watching us," Marcus said quietly, his hands clenching into fists.
"Gets worse.
Titan Security specializes in character assassination.
They dig up dirt, manufacture evidence if necessary, and destroy people's lives for the right price." Jake leaned forward. "Marcus, they've been building a file on you since Sarah first mentioned wanting to move Emma to California." "What kind of file?"
Jake pulled out more documents. "They've interviewed your old neighbors in San Diego, talked to people at Emma's previous school, even contacted some guys from your old SEAL unit. They're looking for anything that makes you look unstable or violent." Marcus scanned the interview transcripts, seeing how innocent comments had been twisted. A former neighbor mentioning that Marcus sometimes worked out late at night became subject displays obsessive and erratic behavior. A teammate talking about Marcus's dedication to completing missions became subject has unhealthy fixation on violence and control. "There's more," Jake continued. "They've been monitoring your phone calls, your internet activity, even your bank records.
Blackwood knows about every move you've made in preparation for this custody fight. How is that legal?" "It's not.
But proving it in court is another matter entirely." Jake's expression was deadly serious.
"Marcus, this isn't just about custody anymore. Blackwood is trying to destroy you completely. If he succeeds, you won't just lose Emma, you'll lose everything."
Marcus felt a cold rage building in his chest. In the military, he had faced enemies who fought with honor, even in the darkest missions. This was different. This was a coward using money and corruption to wage war against a father's love for his child.
"What about the phone recording? The one they used for the restraining order?" "I had a tech expert analyze it.
The conversation was edited. They spliced together parts of your words to make it sound more threatening than it was."
Jake pushed another document across the table.
"But proving that in court will be expensive and time-consuming." Marcus studied the evidence, his mind working through tactical possibilities.
"What else do they have planned?"
"My source at Titan Security says they're planning to plant drugs in your house and then tip off the police."
"They want you arrested for possession before the custody hearing." "When?" "Tonight. They know Emma will be at her friend Sophie's house for a sleepover."
"Perfect timing to make you look like a drug user who hides his addiction from his daughter."
Marcus checked his watch. "That gives us about 10 hours to turn the tables." "What are you thinking?"
"I'm thinking it's time to fight fire with fire." Marcus's voice carried the cold determination that had made him legendary among the SEALs.
"They want to play dirty? Let's show them what dirty really looks like."
That afternoon, Marcus drove to Richmond to meet with Danny Cruz, another former SEAL who now ran a private security company. Danny specialized in protection services for high-profile clients, but Marcus knew he also had skills in surveillance and counterintelligence. "I heard you were having some trouble," Danny said as they sat in his office overlooking the James River.
"Jake filled me in on the basics. I need help, Danny.
They're coming after Emma, and they're using tactics that would make terrorist cells jealous."
Danny leaned back in his chair. "What do you need?" "Counter-surveillance on my house tonight.
I want every person who comes near my property identified and recorded."
Marcus pulled out photos of Richard Blackwood and several Titan security operatives.
"These are the players."
"Consider it done."
"What else?"
"I need intelligence on Blackwood. Real intelligence.
The kind that shows what he's really like when he thinks nobody's watching."
Danny smiled grimly. I've got a team that specializes in that kind of work. Give me 48 hours. I don't have 48 hours. The custody hearing is Friday morning. Then, we'll work through the night.
Danny stood up and shook Marcus's hand.
Nobody messes with the SEAL's family. Nobody.
Marcus drove home to find Emma packing her overnight bag for the sleepover at Sophie's house. She was excited about the plans, movies, popcorn, and staying up late talking about boys from their class.
Will you be okay without me, Daddy? Emma asked, hugging her stuffed elephant.
I'll miss you terribly, Princess.
But I want you to have fun with Sophie.
Just remember that no matter where you are, Daddy loves you more than all the stars in the sky.
I love you too, Daddy.
More than all the fish in the ocean. After dropping Emma at Sophie's house, Marcus returned home and prepared for the longest night of his life. He disabled the house's alarm system and set up his own security measures, motion sensors that would alert his phone, cameras hidden throughout the property, and audio recording devices in every room. Danny's team was already in position around the neighborhood, invisible to casual observation but ready to document everything. Marcus had also called in a favor from Tom Bradley, who arranged for an off-duty police officer to be nearby as a witness. At midnight, Marcus's phone buzzed with a motion alert. Through his hidden cameras, he watched two men in dark clothing approach his back door. They moved with professional skill, picking the lock without triggering the standard alarm system they thought was still active. The men entered through the kitchen, and Marcus recognized one of them from Jake's files, Carl Brennan, a former cop who now worked for Titan Security. They moved quickly through the house, planting small bags of cocaine in strategic locations, behind books on Marcus's shelf, taped under his desk drawer, inside his gym bag. Marcus recorded everything from his hiding spot in the garage, while Danny's team documented the break-in from multiple angles outside. The men spent 20 minutes planting evidence before leaving the same way they came.
30 minutes later, Marcus's phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Thompson? This is Officer Jackson with Virginia Beach Police. We received an anonymous tip about drug activity at your address. We'll be there in 5 minutes to conduct a search.
I'll be waiting, Marcus replied calmly.
The police arrived with a warrant that had clearly been prepared in advance.
Officer Jackson seemed uncomfortable with the situation, especially when Marcus calmly handed over the recording equipment and video evidence of the break-in.
Sir, are you saying someone planted these drugs? Officer Jackson held up one of the bags the intruders had hidden. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I have video proof.
Marcus played back the footage on his laptop, showing the two men entering his house and planting the evidence.
Officer Jackson studied the video carefully.
Mr. Thompson, this is a very serious accusation.
Are you willing to press charges for breaking and entering and planting evidence?
Absolutely. I want those men arrested tonight. Within an hour, Carl Brennan and his partner were in custody. Jake arrived at Marcus's house with a lawyer who specialized in criminal defense, and Danny's team provided additional video evidence from their surveillance positions. But Marcus knew this was just the opening move in a larger game. Richard Blackwood wouldn't give up easily, and the custody hearing was still 2 days away.
His phone rang again.
This time it was Richard himself.
That was impressive, Thompson.
But you're just delaying the inevitable.
Actually, I think I'm just getting started, Marcus replied.
See, the problem with hiring criminals to do your dirty work is that criminals eventually get caught. And, when they get caught, they tend to cooperate with authorities to reduce their sentences.
What are you talking about? Carl Brennan is already talking.
Seems he kept detailed records of all his jobs for Titan Security, including the ones involving my family. Phone taps, illegal surveillance, evidence planting, it's all documented.
There was silence on the other end of the line.
Marcus continued, but, here's the thing, Richard.
I'm willing to make you a deal.
Drop the custody case, delete all the files you've compiled on me and Emma, and disappear from our lives forever.
Do that, and I'll convince Carl to keep your name out of his cooperation agreement. And if I don't?
Then, tomorrow's newspapers will be very interested in a story about a wealthy businessman who hired criminals to frame a Navy veteran in order to steal his daughter.
I don't think that's the kind of publicity your London promotion can survive.
Richard hung up without another word. Marcus knew the war wasn't over, but he had won the first major battle.
The enemy had struck first, just like his enemies always did.
But they had underestimated the lengths a Navy SEAL would go to protect his princess.
Outside, dawn was breaking over Virginia Beach.
Emma would be waking up at Sophie's house, probably wondering what exciting day lay ahead. Marcus sat in his kitchen, surrounded by evidence of the night's events, and allowed himself a small smile. They had tried to destroy him with lies and planted evidence. Instead, they had handed him the weapons he needed to destroy them. The custody hearing was still ahead, but now Marcus held cards that Richard Blackwood didn't even know existed.
He made coffee and started planning his next move.
The battle for Emma was far from over, but, for the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus felt like he was fighting from a position of strength rather than desperation. The morning of the custody hearing arrived gray and cold.
Marcus stood in his bedroom, adjusting his dress blue Navy uniform.
He had earned the right to wear it one final time, and, if he was going into battle for his daughter, he would do it with honor. Emma had returned from her sleepover the night before, chattering excitedly about movies and junk food while having no idea that her entire future hung in the balance. Marcus had tucked her into bed with extra hugs and promises that everything would be okay.
"Daddy looks very handsome," Emma said from the doorway, making him turn around.
She was already dressed for school in her favorite green sweater.
"Thank you, Princess. Mrs. Rodriguez will pick you up from school today, okay?
Daddy has some important business to take care of."
"Is it about Mommy wanting me to go to the castle school?" Marcus knelt down to Emma's level.
"Yes, sweetheart. But remember what I told you, no matter what happens, Daddy will always love you and will always fight to keep you safe."
"I don't want to leave you, Daddy." "You won't have to, Princess. I promise."
At the courthouse, Marcus met his lawyer, Jennifer Walsh, a former military attorney who specialized in family law. She had worked through the night reviewing all the evidence from the break-in and Carl Brennan's arrest. "This changes everything," Jennifer said as they walked through the courthouse corridors. "The criminal charges against Titan Security and the evidence of illegal surveillance completely undermines their character assassination case."
"What about the restraining order?" "We'll get that dismissed today.
The recording was edited, and Brennan's confession proves they manufactured evidence to support it." Jennifer paused outside the courtroom door.
"Marcus, I have to ask, are you prepared for what Sarah might say in there?"
"Divorce cases can get ugly, but when children are involved, people say things they can never take back."
"I've been shot at by terrorists, Jennifer. I think I can handle my ex-wife."
Inside the courtroom, Marcus saw Sarah sitting at the plaintiff's table with her legal team. She was dressed expensively in a navy blue suit, her hair perfectly styled. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Richard Blackwood was noticeably absent. Judge Patricia Coleman was a stern woman in her 60s with a reputation for fairness and a particular hatred for anyone who tried to manipulate her courtroom. She had presided over the original custody case 3 years ago and knew the history between Marcus and Sarah. "Before we begin," Judge Coleman announced, "I want to address several developments that have come to my attention."
"Mr. Thompson, I understand there were criminal charges filed last night related to this case?"
Jennifer stood up.
"Yes, Your Honor."
2 men working for a private investigation firm hired by Mr. Blackwood were arrested for breaking into Mr. Thompson's home and planting illegal drugs. "We have video evidence of the break-in and signed confessions." "This is the first I'm hearing of this," Sarah's lead attorney, Robert Hayes, protested.
"We demand to see this alleged evidence."
"You'll have that opportunity during discovery in the criminal case," Judge Coleman replied dryly. "For now, I'm dismissing the restraining order against Mr. Thompson as it appears to have been based on manufactured evidence." Marcus felt his first moment of hope since this nightmare began.
Sarah's attorney called her to the stand first.
She testified about her new life in California, her marriage to Richard, and the opportunities they could provide for Emma. Her voice was calm and controlled as she painted a picture of wealth and privilege. "Your Honor, Richard, and I can give Emma advantages that her father simply cannot provide. Private tutoring, international travel, the finest education money can buy. She would attend school in Switzerland alongside children from the most prominent families in Europe."
"And what role would Mr. Thompson play in Emma's life under your proposal?" Judge Coleman asked.
"He would have supervised visitation rights every other Christmas and summer vacation. We believe limited contact would be in Emma's best interests as she adjusts to her new environment." Marcus felt his jaw clench. They weren't just trying to take Emma away, they wanted to erase him from her life completely.
On cross-examination, Jennifer was ruthless. "Mrs. Blackwood, when you moved to California 3 years ago, didn't you initially agree that Emma would be better off living with her father? Circumstances were different then. How so? Has Mr. Thompson become a worse father in the past 3 years?"
"No, but, Richard, and I can offer her more now."
"More material things, you mean?"
"Because Mr. Thompson has provided Emma with a stable home, consistent care, and excellent grades in school, correct?"
Sarah hesitated.
"Yes, but, in fact, Emma has never lived with you and your husband for more than 2 weeks at a time, isn't that correct?"
"We've been building our relationship gradually." "Building a relationship? Or have you been essentially absent from Emma's daily life for 3 years while Mr. Thompson has been her primary caregiver?" Sarah's composure began to crack.
"I'm her mother. I have rights. Rights that you voluntarily signed away in the original custody agreement, which specifically stated that you recognized Mr.
Thompson as the more suitable primary parent? I was going through a difficult time then.
Jennifer moved closer to the witness stand.
"Mrs. Blackwood, are you aware that your husband hired investigators to illegally spy on Mr. Thompson and Emma?" "I don't know anything about that." "You don't know that Titan Security has been taking photographs of your daughter without permission? Recording private conversations? Breaking into her father's home?"
"Objection," Hayes called out.
"My client isn't on trial here."
"Sustained," Judge Coleman ruled. "But, I'll allow the question to stand for context."
Sarah looked shaken.
"I told you, I don't know anything about private investigators." Jennifer produced a document. "This is a check for $50,000 from your joint account with Mr. Blackwood to Titan Security, dated 2 months ago."
"Are you saying you weren't aware of this expenditure?"
Sarah stared at the document, her face pale. "Richard handles our finances." "So your husband spent $50,000 of your money to spy on and frame the father of your child, and you claim to know nothing about it?"
Objection. Hayes was on his feet. "This is completely irrelevant to the custody matter." "Your Honor," Jennifer responded, "this goes directly to the plaintiff's credibility and their fitness to parent Emma."
"If Mrs. Blackwood was unaware of these criminal activities, it shows poor judgment in choosing a spouse.
If she was aware, it shows willing participation in a conspiracy to frame Mr. Thompson." Judge Coleman nodded. "I'll allow it. Please answer the question, Mrs. Blackwood."
Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "I trusted Richard to handle legal matters appropriately. When it was Marcus's time to testify, he spoke clearly and calmly about his relationship with Emma. He described their daily routines, her friends at school, her love of soccer and art projects. He talked about helping with homework every night, attending every school event, and being there for every scraped knee and bad dream."
"Emma is my entire world, Your Honor. Every decision I make is based on what's best for her.
She has thrived in our home, excelled in school, and formed strong friendships in our community. Taking her away from everything she knows to ship her off to a boarding school in another country isn't in her best interests, it's in Richard Blackwood's best interests." Sarah's attorney tried to paint Marcus as an unstable veteran, but the criminal charges against Titan Security had completely undermined their character assassination campaign.
Every piece of evidence about Marcus's supposed violent tendencies was now suspect.
During a brief recess, Marcus noticed Sarah sitting alone in the hallway, her legal team huddled nearby in urgent discussion. She looked lost and frightened, nothing like the confident woman who had testified earlier.
Sarah, Marcus said, approaching carefully. This doesn't have to end badly.
She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. I didn't know about the private investigators, Marcus.
I swear I didn't know. I believe you. But you need to ask yourself if you really think taking Emma away from the only stable home she's ever known is the right thing to do.
Richard said it would be best for her future.
The connections, the opportunities. Emma doesn't need connections, Sarah.
She needs parents who love her and put her first.
When's the last time you and Richard talked about what Emma wants instead of what he thinks is best for his image? Sarah was quiet for a long moment.
He's talking about having children of his own soon. He says Emma needs to learn her place in the new family structure. Marcus felt ice in his veins.
Her place? She's an 8-year-old child, not a business acquisition.
Before Sarah could respond, her attorney called her back. The brief moment of honesty was over.
The afternoon session brought the most damaging testimony yet.
Jake Morrison took the stand as a character witness for Marcus, but, more importantly, he presented the findings of his investigation into Richard Blackwood. Your Honor, Mr. Blackwood has a pattern of using intimidation and financial pressure to get what he wants. In 3 separate business deals over the past 5 years, his partners have ended up bankrupted while he profited enormously.
Jennifer guided Jake through the evidence methodically. Can you describe the pattern you discovered? Blackwood identifies targets with valuable assets or capabilities he wants. He partners with them initially, gains their trust, then systematically destroys their reputation and financial standing to force them out. He keeps what he wants and discards the people. And you believe he's applying this same pattern to the Thompson family?
Absolutely. He wants Emma because she represents a perfect addition to his image, a beautiful, accomplished daughter who makes him look like a family man to his London associates.
Mr. Thompson is simply an obstacle to be removed.
The testimony continued with documented evidence of Richard's business practices, including recorded conversations where he bragged about crushing people who stood in his way. Judge Coleman listened with growing disgust as the evidence painted a picture of a man who viewed people, including children, as possessions to be acquired. The final blow came when Carl Brennan, now cooperating with authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence, testified about his instructions from Titan Security. He detailed not just the break-in and evidence planting, but also plans to discredit Emma's teacher, falsify medical records suggesting Marcus had PTSD episodes, and even stage an incident to make it appear Marcus had endangered Emma. This was a comprehensive character assassination campaign designed to destroy Mr. Thompson's reputation and fitness as a parent, Brennan testified.
Mr. Blackwood was personally involved in planning the strategy. By late afternoon, it was clear that Sarah's case had completely collapsed.
Her attorneys requested a recess to discuss their position, and Judge Coleman granted a 30-minute break.
Marcus stepped outside the courthouse and called Mrs. Rodriguez to check on Emma.
She's doing her homework at the kitchen table, Mrs. Rodriguez reported.
She keeps asking when you'll be home.
Soon, Marcus promised.
Very soon. When court reconvened, Sarah's lead attorney made an unexpected announcement.
Your Honor, in light of the evidence presented today, my client wishes to withdraw her petition for custody modification. Judge Coleman looked at Sarah directly.
Mrs. Blackwood, is this your decision?
Sarah stood slowly, her voice shaking.
Yes, Your Honor. I think Emma is better off staying with her father. The court accepts your withdrawal of the petition. The original custody arrangement remains in effect.
Judge Coleman's voice carried the full weight of her authority. However, I want to address something that troubles me greatly about this case. She looked directly at Sarah. Mrs. Blackwood, you allowed yourself to be used as a weapon against your own daughter's well-being. Mr. Thompson has clearly been an exemplary father, and Emma has thrived in his care. The fact that you were willing to tear her away from a loving home for what appears to be your husband's vanity is deeply concerning. Judge Coleman turned to the court reporter.
I'm ordering a complete investigation into Titan Security's activities in this case.
Any other families targeted by similar campaigns need to know that this court will not tolerate the manipulation of child custody for personal gain. As they left the courthouse, Marcus felt the weight of months of stress finally lifting from his shoulders. He had protected Emma, and she would stay home where she belonged. But, as he walked to his car, Marcus knew this wasn't really over. Richard Blackwood was a dangerous man who didn't like to lose. The battle for Emma might be won, but the war could just be beginning. 2 weeks after the custody hearing victory, Marcus thought the nightmare was finally over. Emma had returned to her normal routine of school, soccer practice, and art projects, with no mention of castle schools or London adventures. The restraining orders against Richard Blackwood were still in effect, and Titan Security was under federal investigation. Then, the real war began. It started subtly. Marcus first noticed it when he stopped at the grocery store after picking up Emma from school. The cashier, Mrs. Chen, who had known them for 2 years, avoided making eye contact and seemed nervous throughout the transaction.
"Everything okay, Mrs. Chen?" Marcus asked politely. "Fine, just fine," she replied quickly, not looking up from the register. Walking to the car, Emma tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, why was Mrs. Chen acting weird? She usually asks about my soccer games." "I'm sure she was just having a busy day, princess." But Marcus noticed the looks from other customers, the way conversations stopped when he walked past, the subtle shift in atmosphere that made his military instincts alert. Someone was spreading rumors. The next morning brought confirmation of his suspicions. Tom Bradley called him into the office at the security company with a grim expression. "Marcus, we need to talk. I got a call from our corporate headquarters in Atlanta. Someone filed complaints against you with the state licensing board, claiming you're mentally unstable and potentially dangerous." Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. "What kind of complaints?" "Anonymous reports claiming you've made threats against clients, that you've been drinking on the job, that you've had violent episodes." Tom held up a thick file. "It's all lies, but they've backed it up with what appears to be witness statements and documentation. Let me guess, the documentation comes from Titan Security's files." "That's what I'm thinking." "But, Marcus, I have to suspend you pending an investigation. Corporate's orders. They're worried about liability if something happens and they ignored complaints." Marcus understood the business reality, but it didn't make the betrayal sting any less. "How long?" "Could be weeks. Maybe months." Tom's expression was pained. "I'm sorry, man. I know this is garbage, but I don't have a choice." Driving home, Marcus's mind raced through the implications. Without his security job, he would struggle to pay the mortgage and Emma's expenses. More importantly, unemployment could be used against him in any future custody challenges. That afternoon, Emma's school called. Principal Anderson wanted to meet with Marcus immediately about a concerning situation involving Emma. Marcus arrived at Emma's elementary school to find Principal Anderson, Mrs. Patterson, and the school counselor waiting in the office. Emma was not there. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming so quickly," Principal Anderson began carefully. "We've received some troubling reports about Emma's home environment." "What kind of reports?" "Anonymous calls to our child protection hotline claiming that Emma has been showing signs of abuse or neglect. Bruises, behavioral changes, fear of going home." Marcus felt the room spinning. That's completely false. Emma has never been abused or neglected. "I know," Mrs. Patterson interjected firmly. "I've taught Emma for 3 years, and I've never seen a happier, more well-adjusted child. But we're required by law to investigate any reports." The school counselor, Ms. Rodriguez, nodded. "I spoke with Emma today. She's confused about why someone would say these things, but she's clearly not afraid of you or her home environment. She talks constantly about your pancake breakfasts and how you help with her homework." However, Principal Anderson continued, "Child Protective Services will need to do a home visit and interview Emma formally. It's standard procedure." Marcus understood that his enemies had opened a new front in their war. They couldn't win in family court, So now they were using the child welfare system to attack him. When will this happen? Tomorrow morning. The caseworker will want to inspect your home and speak with Emma privately. That evening, Marcus prepared his house for the inspection while Emma worked on her homework at the kitchen table.
Everything was already clean and organized, but he double-checked every detail.
"Daddy, are you okay?"
"You seem worried," Emma asked, looking up from her math problems. "Just making sure everything's perfect for a visitor tomorrow, princess."
"Is it someone from Mommy's new family?" "No, sweetheart. Just someone who wants to make sure you're happy and safe." "But I am happy and safe.
You take the best care of me in the whole world." Marcus hugged her tightly, wondering how many more battles he would have to fight before his daughter could simply be a child again.
The next morning, CPS caseworker Janet Mills arrived with a clipboard and a serious expression.
She was a middle-aged woman who had clearly seen too many genuinely terrible situations and approached every case with professional skepticism. "Mr. Thompson, I need to inspect the home and, then, speak with Emma privately."
"This is standard procedure for all reports we receive." "I understand. Emma's getting ready for school upstairs."
Janet walked through every room of the house, taking notes on cleanliness, safety measures, and Emma's living conditions. She examined Emma's bedroom, noting the artwork on the walls, the organized toys, and the photographs of father and daughter at various activities.
"Mr. Thompson, I have to ask directly, have you ever struck Emma or punished her physically in any way?" "Never."
"The worst punishment Emma gets is losing television privileges for not cleaning her room."
"And drinking? Drug use?"
"I have an occasional beer while watching football."
"That's it. I've never used illegal drugs in my life." Janet interviewed Emma in the living room while Marcus waited in the kitchen.
Through the doorway, he could hear his daughter's clear, confident answers about their daily routine, how Daddy helped with homework, their weekend activities, and how safe she felt at home.
After 30 minutes, Janet returned to the kitchen with a slight smile, the first emotion she'd shown since arriving. "Mr. Thompson, Emma is clearly a well-cared-for, happy child.
Your home is clean and safe, and there's absolutely no evidence of abuse or neglect."
She closed her notebook. "Frankly, whoever made these reports wasted everyone's time. Will there be further investigation?"
"I'll file my report stating that the allegations are unfounded. If more reports come in, we'll have to respond, but, based on what I've seen today, I doubt anyone will take them seriously."
After Janet left, Marcus felt a moment of relief.
But his phone was already ringing with the next crisis.
"Marcus, it's Jennifer Walsh. We have a problem.
Richard Blackwood has filed federal civil rights violations against you, claiming you've been harassing and stalking him."
"That's impossible."
"The restraining orders work both ways. I've stayed away from him completely." "I know, but he's claiming that your friends have been following him, taking pictures, and making his life difficult. He wants monetary damages and wants you arrested for violation of civil rights." Marcus realized what was happening. Jake Morrison and Danny Cruz had been gathering intelligence on Richard's activities to protect against future attacks. Now Richard was spinning their legitimate investigations as stalking and harassment. "Jennifer, Richard Blackwood hired criminals to break into my house and frame me for drug possession. Now he's trying to turn legitimate investigation of his activities into a federal case against me."
"I believe you, Marcus.
But fighting federal charges is expensive and time-consuming.
Even if we win, the legal costs could bankrupt you."
That afternoon, Marcus met with Jake and Danny at a secluded restaurant outside the city. Both men looked troubled.
"Richard's playing this smart," Jake admitted.
"He's using the legal system like a weapon, filing case after case to drain your resources and energy."
"What's our position legally?" Marcus asked. "Technically, we haven't broken any laws," Danny replied.
"But proving that in court against unlimited legal resources is another matter."
Jake leaned forward. "Marcus, I found something else.
Richard's been making inquiries about having Emma kidnapped." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow.
"What?"
He reached out to a group that specializes in international child custody disputes, basically professional kidnappers who operate under legal pretenses. The plan would be to take Emma during a school visit or field trip, then transport her out of the country before you could respond.
Danny pulled out surveillance photos. We've been watching these people.
They're already in Virginia Beach, posing as educational consultants. Marcus felt the cold calm of combat operations settling over him.
How much time do we have? Maybe days. They're waiting for the right opportunity. Then, it's time to end this.
Marcus's voice carried a finality that made both men straighten.
Richard wants a war? Let's give him one.
But, this time, we're going to play by my rules. That night, after Emma went to sleep, Marcus made a series of phone calls to old military contacts. Some favors from his SEAL days were about to be called in, and Richard Blackwood was about to discover why you never threaten a warrior's family. The first call was to Colonel Martinez, his former commanding officer who now worked at the Pentagon. Marcus explained the situation in detail, focusing on the federal civil rights charges and the potential kidnapping plot. Marcus, if what you're telling me is true, this goes beyond harassment, this is domestic terrorism, Colonel Martinez said grimly. Using the legal system to terrorize a veteran and his child crosses every line we have.
I need this stopped, sir. Emma's life is at risk. Consider it done. I'll make some calls to people who can put pressure where it counts. Richard Blackwood is about to discover that targeting military families brings attention he doesn't want.
The second call was to his former teammate, Mike Stevens, who now worked for a three-letter agency that didn't officially exist. Mike specialized in making problems disappear through methods that never appeared in court records.
Give me everything you have on Blackwood, Mike said after hearing the story. Financial records, business dealings, personal communications. If he's dirty, I'll find it. How quickly? Give me 72 hours. If this guy has any skeletons, I'll drag them into the light. The third call was to Sarah.
It was time for her to choose sides definitively.
Marcus? Why are you calling so late?
Because Richard's planning to kidnap Emma, and I want you to know that if that happens, there won't be anywhere in the world he can hide from me.
That's ridiculous.
Richard wouldn't. Sarah, stop lying to yourself.
Your husband is a sociopath who sees Emma as property to be acquired.
He's already had me framed for drug possession, fired from my job, and investigated by child services.
Kidnapping is just the next logical step. There was silence on the line.
I know you still love Emma, Marcus continued. So here's your choice. You can keep pretending that Richard has her best interests at heart, or you can help me protect our daughter from a dangerous man who's using her as a weapon against me.
What do you want me to do? Get me access to Richard's communications. Phone records, emails, anything that shows his real intentions toward Emma. I can't betray my husband. Then, you're choosing him over Emma's safety.
But, when this goes bad, and it will go very bad, remember that you had the chance to protect our daughter and chose not to.
Marcus hung up before Sarah could respond.
He had given her the opportunity to do the right thing.
If she wouldn't take it, he would protect Emma without her help.
Standing in his daughter's doorway, watching her sleep peacefully with her stuffed elephant, Marcus made a promise that echoed his military oath.
He would defend Emma against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Richard Blackwood had made the mistake of threatening the most important person in a Navy SEAL's world. The retaliation would be swift, decisive, and final. The final battle began at dawn 3 days later. Marcus woke to his phone buzzing with urgent messages from Danny's surveillance team.
Richard Blackwood's hired kidnappers were moving into position around Emma's school.
Marcus had spent the previous 72 hours implementing a protection plan that would have impressed his old SEAL commanders.
Emma's route to school was monitored by 3 separate security teams.
Her classroom had an undercover federal marshal posing as a substitute teacher.
Even Emma's soccer practice was protected by former military personnel who appeared to be just parents watching their children play.
But Richard had made one critical mistake: he had underestimated how deeply the military brotherhood ran. Word of the threats against Emma had spread through veteran networks across the country, and dozens of former operators had quietly arrived in Virginia Beach to help protect one of their own. The call came at 8:30 a.m., just as Marcus was dropping Emma at school. Sarah's voice was panicked and desperate. "Marcus, something terrible is happening. Richard's been arrested by federal agents. They came to the house with a warrant and took all his computers and files." "What for?" "They won't tell me." "But, Marcus, they found things in his office.
Terrible things.
Photos of Emma, detailed plans about taking her out of the country, payments to people I don't even know." Marcus felt no sympathy for Sarah's shock. She had chosen to ignore the warning signs for months.
"Where are you now?"
"At the police station.
They want me to answer questions about Richard's activities." "Marcus, I swear I didn't know about any of this."
"Sarah, listen to me carefully. You need to cooperate completely with the federal agents.
Tell them everything you know about Richard's business dealings, his associates, and anything involving Emma."
"What if they think I was involved?"
"Were you?"
"No. I just wanted what was best for Emma."
"Then, tell the truth and hope it's enough."
After hanging up, Marcus called Jennifer Walsh to get a legal perspective on the developing situation. She had good news. "The federal charges against you have been dropped. Apparently, the investigation into Richard's activities uncovered evidence that his civil rights complaint was fabricated.
He's now facing multiple federal charges including conspiracy, fraud, and attempted kidnapping."
"What about the kidnappers?"
"Arrested this morning when they tried to approach Emma's school."
"They're cooperating with authorities to avoid life sentences." Marcus felt the first real relief he'd experienced in months.
"Is Emma safe?"
"Completely. Richard's in federal custody and won't be getting bail. His assets are frozen, and Titan security has been shut down pending investigation." That afternoon, Marcus picked up Emma from school as usual, but this time without the weight of constant fear. She chattered about her day, completely unaware of the danger that had surrounded her or how close she had come to being taken from everything she loved.
"Daddy, Mrs.
Patterson said there were some new security guards at school today."
"Are we famous or something?"
"Something like that, Princess.
But they're gone now."
"Good.
I didn't like how they watched everyone."
That evening, as Marcus was making dinner, Jake Morrison stopped by with a final update on Richard Blackwood's downfall. The investigation had uncovered a pattern of criminal behavior that went far beyond the custody case. Richard's been running financial scams for years, Jake explained as Emma played in the living room. The kidnapping plot was just the latest in a long series of crimes. The feds found evidence linking him to money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud schemes across 3 states.
"What about Sarah?"
"She's been cleared of any involvement. Turns out Richard kept her completely isolated from his business activities. She genuinely had no idea what kind of man she married." Marcus watched Emma through the kitchen doorway as she worked on a puzzle.
"How long will Richard be in prison?"
"With all the charges they're filing? Probably 20 to 30 years. He'll be an old man when he gets out, if he ever does." A week later, Sarah came to Virginia Beach to see Emma for the first time since the custody hearing. She looked like a different person, tired, older, and carrying the weight of terrible realizations about the man she had married. "I owe you an apology," Sarah said as they sat on Marcus's front porch while Emma played in the backyard. "You were right about Richard. I was so caught up in the lifestyle he offered that I ignored what kind of person he really was."
"What matters is that Emma is safe," Marcus replied.
"That's all that ever mattered. I've been thinking about what kind of mother I want to be," Sarah continued. "I'd like to move back to Virginia Beach, if you're okay with that. Not to fight for custody, but to actually be part of Emma's life this time." Marcus studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agendas. He saw only genuine remorse and a desire to make amends.
"Emma would like that," he said finally.
"But, Sarah, if you ever put her at risk again, if you ever choose a man over her well-being again, I won't be as understanding as I was this time."
"I know. And, Marcus? Thank you for protecting her when I couldn't. Thank you for being the father she deserves.
3 months later, Marcus stood in the same courthouse where he had fought for Emma's custody, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. Judge Coleman was officiating a special ceremony recognizing Marcus's service to the community and his exemplary parenting. Mr. Thompson, Judge Coleman said from the bench, your case has led to significant reforms in how we handle custody disputes involving manufactured evidence and harassment. Your courage in exposing these tactics has protected other families from similar attacks. In the gallery, Emma sat between Sarah and Mrs. Rodriguez, beaming with pride at her father. Behind them sat Jake Morrison, Danny Cruz, Tom Bradley, and dozens of other friends and colleagues who had supported Marcus through the ordeal. Additionally, Judge Coleman continued, the Virginia Beach Police Department would like to offer you a position as a specialist in domestic security cases, helping other families who face threats similar to what you experienced. Marcus accepted the position, knowing that his experience fighting for Emma had given him unique insight into protecting other families from predators who used wealth and influence as weapons. That evening, Marcus and Emma celebrated with pancakes for dinner, extra silly faces on every stack. As they ate, Emma asked the question that had been on her mind all day.
Daddy, are the bad people all gone now?
Yes, Princess.
The bad people are all gone. And if any new ones ever show up, Daddy will be ready for them too.
Good.
Because I like our life just the way it is. So do I, Emma. So do I.
Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat on his back porch looking up at the stars. His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number, but he recognized the writing style immediately. It was from Richard Blackwood, somehow managing to send messages from federal prison. This isn't over, Thompson.
I have resources you can't imagine.
Someday, when you least expect it, I'll be back for what's mine. Marcus read the message twice, then deleted it without responding.
Richard Blackwood still didn't understand what he was dealing with.
He thought this had been about money, influence, and legal maneuvering. He had never grasped that he was fighting a man who would go to any length to protect his daughter. Marcus saved the message as evidence and forwarded it to his contacts at the FBI. Threatening communications from federal prison would add years to Richard's sentence and ensure he remained locked away where he couldn't hurt anyone else's family.
Walking back inside, Marcus checked on Emma one final time.
She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed elephant tucked safely in her arms. Tomorrow they would go to soccer practice, work on homework together, and maybe build a fort in the living room. Normal life, simple pleasures, and the security of knowing that no one would ever threaten their family again. Richard Blackwood had struck first, using wealth, corruption, and criminal conspiracies to try to destroy a Navy SEAL and steal his daughter. But he had learned too late that some bonds cannot be broken by money or intimidation.
The retaliation had been swift, thorough, and final. Emma was safe.
She would grow up knowing that her father had fought the world to protect her and won. And somewhere in a federal prison, a broken man was finally learning that there are some lines you never cross, especially when the man on the other side is a warrior who has dedicated his life to protecting the innocent. The war was over. The princess was safe. And Marcus Thompson could finally rest easy, knowing that love and determination had triumphed over greed and evil. In the end, that was all that mattered.